Hey everyone, so I really hope that this is going to be the last time I will film this, but anyway, I have a two-part video for you guys this afternoon. I really wanted to do a two-part collection video of my Penguin English Library editions, slash collection, because they are my favorite editions of classics to collect. And I've never really done a collection video for these before. I know that you guys have probably seen my entire collection at some point through like bookshelf tours or hauls or TBRs or wrap-ups, but I thought it'd be nice to have a video or two videos talking about them all. And I've seen these, I've seen a couple other people do these kind of collection videos, and I thought they were really fun. So what I thought I would do is do one video talking about all the ones that I have read and kind of reading the summary of each one and then giving a little thought about how I felt about the book. And then in the second one, I'm going to talk about all the ones that I haven't read yet. And for those, I'll just do the read the summary and show the book, but not actually talk about how I felt about them because I haven't read them yet, so I don't know. But maybe I'll do something like how I expect to like it or something. So let's get started, shall we? The first one is Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. This is my second favorite Jane Austen work. I think it is wonderful. And I really love this cover with the keys. I think it's just so cool, and I really love the colors. So this says, the most youthful and optimistic of Jane Austen's novels, Northanger Abbey tells the story of naive, charming Catherine Morland, who is obsessed with reading Gothic romance and horror. When Catherine is invited to stay at her new friend's grand house, Northanger Abbey, with its mysterious suite of sealed-off rooms, her melodramatic imagination threatens to run away with her. As comic misunderstandings ensue, she comes to understand the gap between fantasy and reality, false friends and true feeling. Yeah, I really love this one. And I'm sorry about the planes. They've been, if you can hear them, they've been going all afternoon, and oh, it's so annoying. But anyway, next up is Lady Audley's Secret by Mary Elizabeth Braddon. I love this cover. I love the mint green and the teacups and the teapots. And it says, in this outlandish, outrageous triumph of scandal fiction, a new Lady Audley arrives at the manor, young, beautiful, and very mysterious. Why does she behave so strangely? What exactly is the dark secret this seductive outsider carries with her? Sadly, I did not love this. I gave it a 3, and I think I gave it a 3 because of how much I really love the writing and some of the characters, and I really did enjoy the plot up to a point. Basically, I would say the last third of the book, either third or quarter, I'm not really sure, but basically when things started to wrap up, I really did not like the direction that the book was taking, and it ended in a way that I really didn't enjoy. So yeah, that was my problem with it. I buddy read this with Katie from Books and Things, and the interesting thing is that we both had issues with the ending, but they were different issues, which I thought was really cool, and a fun way to experience reading this book, like reading it with someone who, like, neither of us like it, but we didn't like it for different reasons, so I thought that was very cool. So yeah, a reading experience I enjoyed, but didn't actually enjoy the content as much as I was hoping. But it is one that I do want to reread, because I'm hoping that it's one that will get better each time I reread it, but we'll have to see. Next is one that was entirely different, and that is The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. This is one of my favorite of the covers. This is by Anne Bronte, and this is my favorite of the 3 Bronte books that I've read so far. I've read one from each of the 3 sisters, 2 of which I loved, this and Jane Eyre, one of which I couldn't stand, Wuthering Heights. But anyway, I'll read you guys the back of this one. It says, "This sensational, hard-hitting, and passionate tale of marital cruelty sees a mysterious new tenant at Wildfell Hall, Helen Graham, unmasked not as a wicked woman, as the local gossips would have it, but as the estranged wife of a brutal alcoholic bully, desperate to protect her son. Using her own experiences with her brother Branwell to depict the cruelty and debauchery from which Helen flees, Anne Bronte wrote her masterpiece to reflect the fragile position of women in society and her belief in universal redemption." Yeah, this to me is just one of the greatest classics ever, and I love it so much, and I'm really hoping to get a chance to reread it this year. Next is David Copperfield by Charles Dickens. This is another one that I'm very tempted to reread. It is my favorite of the 4 Dickens works that I've read so far, and I will read you guys the back real quick. It says, "Dickens's epic, exuberant novel is one of the greatest coming-of-age stories in literature. It chronicles David Copperfield's extraordinary journey through life as he encounters villains, saviors, eccentrics, and grotesques, including the wicked Mr. Murdstone, stout-hearted Peggotty, formidable Betsy Trotwood, impecunious Micawber, and odious Uriah Heep. Dickens is great Bildungsroman, based in part on his own boyhood, and which he described as a favorite child, is a work filled with life, both comic and tragic." I really, really love this. There are 1 or 2 aspects of it that I don't exactly like, but my reading experience of this was amazing because I listened to the Richard Armitage narrated audiobook, and he is one of my favorite narrators as well as one of my favorite actors, and I think this his narration of this really solidified that. It's probably my favorite audiobook ever, so that's saying a lot, and I really want to reread this very soon because I highly recommend it. It is wonderful. Next is next is one that I don't have to show, unfortunately. It is Daniel Deronda by George Eliot. I have lent this out to a friend so that she can read it, and unfortunately it's the kind of book where I don't know how to describe it without having a summary in front of me, so I can't give you a summary, but all I can say is that it is one of the greatest classics I've ever read. It is one of the biggest classics I've ever read, but it was a phenomenal reading experience, and I can't really describe why I love it so much. I love the writing, I love the characters, I love the plot, I love the allusions to music. It's fantastic, and I highly recommend it. Next is A Room with a View by E.M. Forster. This is tied with another book in this pile for my second favorite book of all time. And the next book I'm going to show is tied with another book for my first favorite book of all time. But this is completely fantastic, and I will read you guys the back. It says, "A sunny tale of love and liberation, A Room with a View is the story of Lucy, on holiday in Italy with her conservative cousin when she meets George Emerson, an unusual young man not of her class. Although drawn to him, on her return home she becomes engaged instead to Cecil, a comically dull gentleman in her own background. Sun-drenched and optimistic, and including many issues which troubled the Edwardian public, radical thinking, women's suffrage, the constrictions of English social rules. This is a brilliantly witty love story." This is one that I read in college, and I love the book, I love the 80s film, I love the music in that film. It's like the perfect trifecta of book, movie, and soundtrack. Next is the book that is tied for my first favorite book of all time with Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen, and this is North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell. this to me is the better version of Pride and Prejudice. I love Pride and Prejudice a lot, but this to me is just such a stronger story. Yeah, I still love them both, but I just love this more. So I will read you the back. It says, Elizabeth Gaskell's compassionate, richly dramatic novel features one of the most original and fully rounded female characters in Victorian literature, Margaret Hale. It shows how, forced to move from the country to an industrial northern town, she develops a passionate sense of social justice and a turbulent relationship with mill owner John Thornton. North and South depicts a young woman discovering herself in a nuanced portrayal of what divides people and what brings them together. Yeah, this book is amazing, and also the BBC miniseries is my favorite miniseries. And I know that I just was talking about Richard Armitage for his narration of David Copperfield, but he actually stars in this miniseries, and it's completely wonderful. Like, both the book and the miniseries, I really couldn't choose which I like more, so I highly recommend both. Next is Far from the Madding Crowd by Thomas Hardy, which this is tied with Room with a View for my second favorite book ever. It is amazing. I love the cover so much, and I love the colors. And this has my favorite literary hero in it, who is Gabriel Oak. So I will read you guys the back. It says, Hardy's powerful novel of swift sexual passion and slow-burning loyalty centers on Bathsheba Everdeen, a proud working woman whose life is complicated by three different men. Respectable farmer Boldwood, seductive Sergeant Troy, and devoted Gabriel, making her the object of scandal and betrayal. Vividly portraying the superstitions and traditions of a small rural community, Far from the Madding Crowd shows the precarious position of a woman in a man's world. Yeah, this is amazing. Highly recommend. Next is Tess of the Durbervilles, also by Thomas Hardy, another cover that I love with very pretty colors. And this I do love very deeply, but I love it slightly less than Far from the Madding Crowd because this is so heartbreaking, and Far from the Madding Crowd ends on a much more uplifting note. It is much more uplifting of an ending than this one, but I will read you the back of this one. It says, with its sensitive depiction of a wronged pure woman and its powerful criticism of Victorian sexual hypocrisy, Tess of the Durbervilles shocked readers on publication. Its heroine is a poor country girl, Tess, whose encounter with her distant aristocratic relatives, especially the handsome, cruel Alec, leaves her broken and haunted by a secret that could ruin her. A very different man, Angel Clare, offers her salvation, but Tess must choose whether to reveal her past or remain silent in the hope of a peaceful future. So yeah, it is a very, very difficult read, but it is also incredibly beautiful, and I love the way that Hardy writes. So yeah, this one is also great. Okay, I think I'm actually going to cut it off here. And I do have 5 more books on my read list, but I will just get through those in the first part of part 2, and then I will discuss all of the ones that I have yet to read. And thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of any of the books that I've talked about so far. Let me know if you really enjoy this collection, if you love any of these classics, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.